I love this next story, Culture. Here you go from that park place. Epic Universe tickets finally included in park-to-park options starting 2026. Annual pass holders still left waiting. This by Jam Lee. Awesome stuff right there. New right for us at that park place. July 3rd, 2025. Big news for theme park fans planning their 2026 vacations. Universal Orlando has quietly updated its ticket offerings to finally include Epic Universe in park-to-park ticket options. Park-to-park is kind of like their version of Park Hopper. So previously, you had to buy a ticket for Epic Universe or buy a multi-day ticket that included Epic Universe in it, but you couldn't actually go from another park to Epic Universe and vice versa. That's changing in January. Universal Orlando is finally opening the gates, partially at least, when it comes to Epic Universe access. Starting in January 2026, guests purchasing park-to-park tickets will be able to hop freely between Universal Studios Florida, Islands of Adventure, and the upcoming crown jewel of the resort, Epic Universe. It's a major milestone for the highly anticipated fourth, but Universal counts Volcano Bay as its third park. Theme park, yes, we don't. Theme park and a clear sign that Universal is preparing for full integration of Epic Universe into its multi-day vacation strategy. By the way, I want to go ahead and give a shout out to Cannon Barnes. He was the one that alerted us to this specific little update right here. You can see Cannon Barnes, way to go on this one right here. And you can see, according to this screenshot, that packages from January 1st through December 31st of 2026, they include park-to-park tickets. And I went ahead and verified, yes, this is exactly what they're offering right here. You can see the URL up above, according to this one. Yes, they are including park-to-park tickets on this guy. Now, we just covered a story, Culture, about the growth that we are expecting for not only Epic Universe, but also the entire Universal Orlando resort. And this comes from Fast Company right here. You can see the increase from year to year in Epic Universe's growth as it compares to the existing theme parks. I think a part of this growth strategy and achieving those numbers is park-to-park access, but I could be wrong. Culture, your thoughts on all of this, please?
Well, I can speculate on that and say that you're going to see additional growth because people are going to get a level of freedom that they don't currently have. You're going to get back to that park-to-park travel where, hey, I want to go on this ride, but I want to eat at this restaurant. So people just love to have that kind of freedom. Now, it's not going to be as easy, as it is currently with the two parks. But when you add Epic Universe way up and around the corner, that's going to take a little while to get from point A to point B. But I still think that it's going to be something that everybody is going to be focused on. There are going to be people that are more than happy to, spend the day here, travel to all three Harry Potter areas, in one day. It's just you're gonna have increased interest in this, and you're gonna have more people visiting more frequently because they'll just, especially the locals, will just have access to go and do the things that they want to do, or eat where they want to eat, and that's a big deal. I think that's going to add to the growth, and I do think it is part of the strategy. But I also think that it gives guests an opportunity to spend their vacation how they want and not have to, contend with the restrictions that Disney places on you, because there won't be. And again, this is another big bonus, a perk that you'll be able to experience at Universal.
Absolutely.
Outside of that, I'm excited. I've been excited the whole time. There's not been a moment I haven't been excited about Epic Universe, and I haven't been able to say that about Disney for a long, long time. So
that's the thing, right? And I think it makes it easier for vacationers, right? Because it's like, okay, if I'm going to get a vacation package, can I apply park to park to the existing parks? Got to leave Epic out. How does that work? Now it's all going to be part of the one package there, and you're going to be able to move freely around the resort, just like Culture said. And for all those people who say, well, this is an auxiliary property right here, right? This, you got to take a bus there, and it takes a while. And Disney, it's all on property. Everything's, and it's like, hang on a second. Try getting from Animal Kingdom to Magic Kingdom, or from Animal Kingdom to, like, I don't know, Disney Springs or whatever. There is a distinct lack of transportation options, even on that resort, places where you can only travel by bus. And even if you do travel by monorail or something like that, they've diminished a lot of those options to the point where they're not as efficient as they should be. Here with Epic Universe, yes, it is an auxiliary lot. That is true. But they got their own bus lane, which is awesome. And from what I understand, it legitimately is about 10 to 15 minutes in order to travel between these properties right here. So in terms of being able to access this part of the resort, I think they've made it as convenient as they possibly can, in some ways shorter than some of the destinations found at Walt Disney World property, which is very, very interesting. But I think this is incredibly exciting. I think this is absolutely awesome. And I think it's what we've been, at least some vacationers have been waiting for. That being said, Culture, when do you think annual pass holders might have Epic Universe incorporated in their ticket? We've been waiting for some time, and we haven't gotten word just yet.
I think it's going to be sooner than you would think, sooner rather than later. And I think it'll be very close to when this option is available to, the general public, the traveling public. I think that there's not going to be a reason to restrict it, but doing things in phases means make sure that you're not going to blow things up. And I think that that's one of the things that we should be excited about when it comes to the way Universal approaches its phase test in versus the way Disney does it. You can have all the practice runs and previews and everything else that you want, but until you go open on game day, you never know what's actually going to happen. And again, it's where I can just say Universal testing for as long as they did under full crowd capacity or close to it. I mean, that was brilliant to lead into that and get to that point and then eventually go to live opening. All of these things were a great idea. Disney just seems to give it a much shorter period of time with exclusive previews. And like I said, I think you're going to see pass holders with it real close to the same time that the general public sees it, because I wouldn't see any reason why you would phase the other in much, much later. And look, your pass holders are your most valuable people, despite the fact that Disney would argue with that. Universal seems to value their locals and their the people who are pass holders, because they're spending money every weekend, and not just on booze.
That's very true. And I think that's the interesting thing about this whole dynamic between comparing the offerings at Walt Disney World versus Universal and the value statement that they provide. Because I think Universal, I think they just have a bit more compelling products, not just the attractions that are on offer, the shows, but also too like the merchandise. I just think it's a little bit higher quality. To be able to move between those stores and everything like that definitely facilitates that investment by consumers who are actually going here. I mean, just everything about these properties, it's just kind of on a different level. Go ahead, Culture.
No, to add to what you're saying, I was going to ask you a question because I think it's a valuable one. I think everybody should, be looking at.
Please.
Do you remember when these roles were reversed? It wasn't very long ago when people were, thinking that Universal was maybe the second class park, and the guests were, troublesome and were maybe, a little more rowdy and disrespectful and all of that. And boy, times have changed. I mean, and maybe that's just a perception, right? Is, because of the way that they maintain their parks, the way that they're developing for the future. Maybe some of it's that, but I have noticed in the last several visits where I've done both locations that there's a difference in the guests now. Disney guests are entitled, whiny, intolerable human beings. Not everybody, of course, but that doesn't seem to have been true on my last several vacations to Universal. So I guess maybe I'm not sure. Is that a perception you share? I think that's the question I wanted to ask.
I can share it at least somewhat. I think, look, there is a difference between the guests when you go to like a regional theme park, to a county fair, to a theme park from the big two, like what's on offer at Universal and Disney. There's definitely a difference. But even between Universal and Disney, Universal guests just seem to be a little bit happier. They seem to have a little bit more pep in their step, and in a happy way. They seem to be catered to a little bit better. Like I have been saying forever, one of the greatest things about going to Universal over Disney, like mobile order, for example, mobile order at Disney, it's basically you order in advance without the cast member, right? It's basically what that is. But at Universal, you're able to get your seat first, scan the QR code on the table itself, and have that food brought to you. Now that right there is an improvement on the guest satisfaction level. That's actually doing the guests right when it comes to their experience. And when I think about the Orlando parks, I don't really think about Disney, or at least I don't think about having that amazing of a time at those Disney parks. But Universal, that's completely different, and it's transformed my entire thinking about how I think about resorts out there and the theme parks on offer. So I think Park to Park is absolutely amazing. I'm very happy to see that is coming in January of next year. And also, too, maybe hopefully we get more thematic options when it comes to transportation between the parks. That would be cool.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.